Hello, my name is Mansi, and today we're going to talk about my CURES project called Breaking Down the Complexity of Cancer. So today we'll talk about the importance of the project I've created, meeting the resource, testing if it was actually effective, and future development. As an introduction, let me tell you what CURES is. It stands for Cancer Undergraduate Research Education for Students. And this is a class that encourages students to find gaps of knowledge and communication within cancer education, research, and healthcare. So the students are encouraged to create resources for the public to increase the communication and understanding between researchers, healthcare workers, and the general public to help us all get to the common goal of finding better treatments for cancer. But in order to do this, we have to actually identify the gaps that are present within our communities. The gap that my project tries to fix is two misconceptions. The first one is that there's one cure for cancer. And really that's false. There isn't one cure. Each cancer is different, and each cancer will require a different type of treatment. The different properties of cancer are genetic differences, which are the mutations or proteins that come across from a DNA, which is our information strings. They create different cell types, and these cell types are in different locations. There's also characteristics of cancer, like the invasion level or the disorganization of the tissues, which comprise staging and grading. So these different properties of cancer together combine to show us that there are different types of cancer. But scientists go in this order, from the DNA and the biomarkers, all these small changes that lead to progression of cancer. But as someone who doesn't have a science background, it's better to break it down from big to small. So we'll go in the backwards order and show you each part of each property through letting the participant being a pathologist and go through each property by looking at a microscope slide. So the project that I've created is a game that allows you to do this. The second misconception that we're tackling is that cancer is taking too long to cure. And it's also part of the message that there are different cancers, which means there are different treatments. And these different treatments take time to make, to test, and all this costs time and money. So now that you have an idea of what kind of misconceptions and gaps I'm trying to bridge here, we'll look at the actual resource. So my resource is kind of like a video that gives you first a walkthrough of how cancer is diagnosed. So the patient comes into the hospital or the clinic and they're feeling a little bit ill, and the doctor suggests them to get some scans, and there's a potential risk for cancer here. So what happens is that a tissue biopsy is taken, and that goes to the pathologist. And the pathologist determines what kind of cancer it is, if there is cancer. So this is a mini walkthrough that we go through in the first part of the presentation. The next part of the presentation is the game slides and learning slides. So here's where you actually get to be the pathologist and you learn different parts of what a pathologist looks like. So for example, this slide is what cancer actually looks like. And once you get an idea for the shape or organization of cancer, then when you look at a tissue on the next slide, which asks which colorectal tissue is cancerous, you might be able to tell which one is actually the cancer. So the game slides will give you two options, and you'll have to pick one, pause, and then when you're ready, move on, and I'll be giving you the right answer. So my voice will guide you through the entire presentation, and I'll give you many explanations at the end of each game slide to explain which one was the correct answer. So that's kind of the layout of the game. And what I did was create a video of this presentation and put it up on YouTube. I invited some people to take the pilot survey after going through the video. And we're going to be testing whether the gap actually is fulfilled, whether the resource is effective. So what I did was put certain questions on the survey that helps me to judge this. So the first thing that I was looking for was whether it meets the target audience. So my target audience for this resource is older individuals and younger individuals who might not have a strong cancer biology background. And it seems that most of these participants are middle-aged, which is good, as long as they don't have a cancer biology background, which seems to be the case for this participant group. So next we look at the goal. One part of it was whether the resource helps the participants understand why it is taking so long to find a cure for cancer. And everyone unanimously answered yes. And the follow-up question on how well this understanding is occurring, most people answered in the higher range, which means they either completely or mostly understand why it is taking so long to find a cure. So this is good, which means it's kind of meeting the goal of that gap that we talked about. The other part is whether the resource helps the participant understand whether the different factors are that make up the cancer diagnosis. So this includes grading, staging, and location. And most people, again, said they understood it pretty well, which is good. And finally, I checked if the layout of the presentation or resource was actually good. So two parts to it were whether the learning slides actually facilitated understanding and guessing almost of the actual game slides. So did the learning slides actually help them answer the questions? And everyone answered yes. The other question is whether the mini explanations after helped them understand why the correct answer was correct, even if they got it incorrect or guessed it. So it seems that everyone did try guessing at some point, and that's okay because they don't have a science background, and that's normal because you're looking at microscope slides. It's kind of unfamiliar. And that means that, yes, they do understand why the correct answer is correct after a while. So this means that the project does meet the goal initially, and some things that we can consider from the feedback in the written part of the survey is some future development that could be happening after this resource is published. So someone following me could make an optimized video format with an animation kind of form, where in the beginning, for example, you have the diagnosis of cancer. You can have an animated person actually walk through the entire thing with the person who's watching. So that kind of makes it more concise and helps them navigate what's actually happening because it's always kind of consistent. Another idea is having a pathologist actually be involved in going over the presentation. So perhaps helping with microscope slides or having the person understand different factors that they might not have considered. And because it's a pathologist's job to go through this, it'd be an interesting case to have them involved in the development of the project and see what factors you might be missing there. And the last one, which I noticed from the feedback, some people were interested in what the actual treatments are after the diagnosis of cancer. So there are different cancers, yes, but how does that lead to having different treatments exactly? And what current options are there that are used for treatment based on the type of cancer? So having another presentation that would kind of lead or follow up after this one would be explaining stuff like biomarkers and how that affects what treatment we have and what current options we have. So we decide between that and we look at the progress level of each of those in the scientific field. And how that's happening, that's a process that could be covered in the next part. All right, that's pretty much it for my presentation. Thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, go ahead and leave it in the comment box below. and I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.